Hey, the fish life, how's it going, man? I'm not sure exactly how this is going to go, but we've been having rolling brownouts here, so the power may go out on me here at some point. Kim Sodas or Elias, welcome to the stream. Hey Laura, how's it going? Can you guys hear me? Always got to check the sound. Hey Lumpy Dog, how is the sound coming in? Richard Huff, welcome to the stream. What's up with all you people on this fine Saturday? The heat index here is almost 106 outside, and we've been getting rolling brownouts. Power's gone out about 4 or 5 times this morning, so don't be surprised if the power suddenly drops out on me. I went off a little early, so maybe I'd get between the brownouts. Hey Sharon, you put in there hi Gawain, Gwain, and actually my name is of Celtic derivation. It means singing in that language, and in all actuality it is a derivation of the name Gawain, like Gawain the Green Knight. So you weren't far off there, Sharon, typing in hi Gawain. Yeah, Lumpy Dog, I think that's exactly what's going on. So, I thought we'd use this. Hey Corona Ken, welcome to the stream, man. I thought I'd use this as a chance to talk about what's going on. I hope you brought enough snacks to share with everybody, Corona Ken. Yeah, good mistake, Sharon. I thought we'd take this opportunity to maybe talk a little bit about power outages and accidents that happen in our tank. Last night I heard a commotion in my bedroom where my 110 is, all kinds of racket, and I got up and went into the room, and my wave maker had fallen off. The suction had come loose on the side of the tank and fallen into the tank. And if you're aware of how my 110 is set up, it's basically sand on 2/3 of the tank and under gravel filter with gravel and Eco Complete on the other third of the tank. And the sand, the wave maker was blowing so hard at the sand, it had it blown up all over the inside of the tank. It had buried a bunch of the caves in my tank. It had blown all the sand off of about 10 inches of the tank and just stacked it up and scattered it all over the tank. So we need to be aware of what's going on in our tanks. We need to be observant. Now, if you've got all of your tanks in a basement and sometimes you don't go down there, you can have stuff go on if you don't have a regular schedule of checking on your tanks. One of the things that I have always stressed, my wife loves hummus, Corona Ken. I'm not a fan myself, but apples I like. One of the things that if you go back through my videos and look at a lot of my different videos, one of the things that I have always stressed is observation. we need to learn how to really observe our fish in such a way that our fish will tell us if something is wrong. My wife's 75-gallon, she added a bunch of plants yesterday. She got another, she's gotten in 2 packages of plants in the last week. She bought a bunch from Dustin, and she bought a bunch from that Florida plant place that sent her a bunch of free plants. I'm not sure if you watched her videos, but she just went through and added a bunch of plants again. And this morning when I went in there, I noticed that the rainbows are all cowered down in the corner again. So something stray voltage out of the tank. I'm not sure what you're saying, Kim's Otis, Aurelis. I'm not sure what you're describing. Laura, I filmed for her Dustin's fish tank unboxing, but my D53 Nikon camera is starting to have some issues with keeping the video and the audio in sync. So, hey Susan, welcome to the stream. So Laura, I'm not sure when she's going to put that out, because she's kind of disconcerted with the she'll move her mouth and then the sound will come on afterwards. Using grounding probe for extracting stray voltage. All right. I guess I kind of understand what you're talking about. You're talking about microvoltage that ends up in the tank from all of the power heads and wave makers. Yeah, it'll be on her channel, Laura. You're talking about all the stray voltage that will end up in a fish tank. Microvoltage from wave makers being used and hang on the backs and canister filters running and that sort of thing. Yeah, microvoltage can get to be an issue. Fish have a lateral line on them that is very sensitive to electricity. I'm guessing the word is electricity to describe it. It's a naturally produced microvoltage that occurs in rivers and lakes and streams, and fish have lateral lines which pick up. They can use those lateral lines like a dolphin uses sonar to see what's going on around them. If they live in tannin stained waters, they can tell who and what are around them by using their lateral lines as a form of sonar. Or it's not really sonar, it's picking up electrical discharges from other fish and stuff like that. Yeah, Richard, I have never run salt tanks. It's the price and the requirements have always scared me off. Yeah, Lumpy Dog, you're right. Predators can use it to locate fish that are buried in the sand. You know, fish will sometimes bury themselves in the sand if they're frightened, and a lot of predators can use that lateral line to pick up on fish that are buried in the sand. So yeah, it's really effective for fish, but if you're dealing with microvoltage in a tank, then yeah, you're going to cause them to suffer through their lateral lines. It'd be like us hearing some loud horn going off every 30 seconds or something, probably. Susan, I enjoyed the all-girls stream you guys did. I feel like you guys are getting the hang of doing it and that it's starting to be easier. I hope you feel better, Susan. So, I just thought that with these this brownouts that are going on around here and the heat and all of this stuff put together, that we could talk about things that go wrong in our tanks and how we rectify them, or how we are able to adjust to a situation. I've always been a big proponent of people keeping a large stock of aquarium supplies. If you have been keeping fish for 10 or 15 years, you will have gone through any number of power heads and you know, the latest fad will come out and you'll go out and buy it at the store and try it in your tank for a while and realize it's not all that and a bag of chips, and put it to one side. Yeah, Corona, we've got like 5 days of potential storms coming. Here in Indiana, we usually get this. It gets outrageously sticky, hot, and then a cold front will roll through and give us outrageous thunderstorms for a while. We don't have any storms today, but it is super hot out there, and a lot of yeah, Lumpy Dog, I'm sure that you're right. This is not a subject that I am well versed in, this microvoltage in a tank. This is outside of my main, so I'm going to have to kind of depend on what you guys say. I've seen some written stuff about it. I've read it and looked at it and tried to grok what was going on with it. But yeah, there's all kinds of issues that can strike our tank. Susan says, yes, Dwayne, I don't know what I would do in a power outage with 9 tanks. I think my guppies would do good, but the grommies would need a better backup pump going. A battery backup pump going. Well, Susan, I saw in your video that you do have some battery backup pumps, and I would highly recommend that those be part of any fish keeper's arsenal. Like I was saying just a bit ago, anybody that's in this hobby for keeps, hey Rob, welcome to the stream. Anybody that's in this hobby for keeps needs to hang on to stuff that they get and then don't use, or buy extras of things when you buy them, something that you know that you need. I know the hobby is expensive. I know that it's a lot of money, and some of us just are on fixed incomes or don't have a lot of spare income to devote to this hobby, and so we try to get by on lesser methods. But I think that we need to consider our other supplies too. Yeah, Corona Ken says this winter he invested in a battery air pump stat per Corey's recommendation. Now I just need to find them before the lights go out. Yeah. What I'm trying to get at here is you are going to face all kinds of problems that you weren't expecting, when you are keeping fish. Suddenly something is going to go bad. A tank will crack on you. Something is going to happen, and you need a certain amount of supplies on hand. You know, you can say all the things like having the medication that you need on hand, having the necessary items to save a clutch of eggs if you need to, a place to put, and breeder boxes for surprise fry if you get them. But there are all kinds of other issues that occur. You like with my wave maker pump. It's a really big wave maker pump. I mean, it's not huge. I think it cost me like $35 when I bought it. But it's basically pumping water from one side of a 110 back to the other side. And I have it bouncing off the front glass and bouncing to the back glass so that it pushes stuff towards the one canister filter that I do have in the tank now. The intake is on the other side opposite. So you may need clamps to hold something in place that's no longer functioning like it's supposed to. You may lose the proper hose clamps that hold your canister filter intake and outtake in place. So I'm just trying to express that you need to have stuff on hand that you wouldn't normally think about needing. You know, if something breaks suddenly on you, if something falls apart in a way that you couldn't expect. The last time I did my canister filter cleaning on Life's 75, one of the handles that holds the canister filter closed broke. It split in half on me. And I tried using UV glue to glue it back together, the little plastic piece. It fell out of its brackets because it had broken in two. And without that piece, I'm basically going to have to buy a new canister filter, because that canister filter is 20 years old. It's a Fluval 404, and they no longer sell those parts. And hey, Jordan's Fish Room, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I ended up using Gorilla Glue and glued it together and then taped it tightly so it couldn't come apart, because Gorilla Glue will expand a little bit as it's drying, and I didn't want it to push the thing wider. So I managed to fix that canister filter, and you need to be able to do those things as you go along. Now, everybody's talking about power outages and what they use. And Susan was talking about being afraid of what would happen if power went out for a while. The standard answer to some of this is that if you have a acrylic tank, it will lose heat less quickly than a glass tank will. Glass gives off heat quicker. So if your power goes out in the wintertime, you're going to lose less heat from an acrylic tank than you will from a glass aquarium. People are talking about putting blankets. Rob says blankets are best, Susan. As soon as the power goes out, cover your tank and save the heat. You can also use those camping blankets that are basically like aluminum foil. You know, they're that plastic aluminum foil. Those things are made to hold heat in so that you can cover yourself and protect yourself from the cold on one side, and it will hold the heat in your tank longer. If it's during the summertime and your tank gets too hot because there's not enough water flowing and not enough evaporation, you can put ice in plastic baggies and seal them, as long as you've got ice, of course. Yeah, Jordan, I saw that you have been talking about that Sun. Sun are an interesting mix of cheap and kind of self-destructing. So you're probably going to need to find someone that's got a Sun that may have experienced the same thing. But welcome to the stream. That's true, Susan. They say that a canister filter the bacteria will start dying off after an hour of no water being run through it. And I agree that you could put it in a bucket. I have a video in my videos about what to do when the power goes out, and I have Ryobi power tools. And yeah, Dan Hitshaw did have some trouble with the Sun, but that was with the UV breaking down the plastic inside of it. I have Ryobi power tools, and one of the things that the battery power tools can do is they have a air filler that you can keep in your vehicle that uses one of those batteries, so that if you have a flat, you can re-air the tire up with it. And I tested that out, and it's a Ryobi tool that you can buy. You just have to have the rechargeable batteries charged up. That thing would probably run a small fish room on the high side, on the output, the high side, and it will last almost 2 hours on a large battery charge. So I would recommend, Jordan, I don't think pipes being too long would cause it to make a humming sound. Thank you, Susan. It's one of my older videos, so you just have to put up with the terrible filming and editing, but I think it will show you what you need to know. And you don't have to run out and buy a full Ryobi set, but if you have power tools, you might, and wireless power tools, you might look into whether your brand name also makes a pump that is similar to that. A lot of them do. And those can be invaluable because, and here again is me talking about having a lot of stuff that you are not using that you could use, because if you've got, say, 10 tanks going, you can use a gang valve that you're not using for something else that you have on hand, and you could hook it up to one of those battery operated air pumps that I'm talking about, a large one, and have that thing power every tank in your house by having extra air line and extra hose on. And I personally believe that if you were to take an air line and a air stone. No, this is my Logitech. I've got a 920 HD Logitech webcam. So that's what I run doing live streams. And it looks fine, but if I take this, I've got a long cord and I can take it into the other room and look at my other tanks. It does a terrible job of actually showing you what's in the tanks. It works fine for this. It's quite, looks like I'm lagging. Hang on just a second. Is it lagging for you guys? It looks like it's lagging to me. I just went and checked to see if my wife was using the Roku or on-demand video. Jordan's Fish Room says it's not a humming sound. It's a really weird sound. Okay, thanks, Corona Ken. Ruru2 says it sounds like a washing machine. If it sounds like a washing machine, Jordan, then you're having an air issue. Some way or another, you're getting air into your intake, or you're getting you may have an air stone that's close, or a CO2 thing that's close that's bubbling air up into your intake, or you may have it doesn't seem like it would be a leaking seal, because if you had a leaking seal you'd have water too. So it sounds like to me you need to purge some air out of that sun, but that may not be what your issue is. Well, I'm having lag on the back side of this video. Then well, if it sounds like a washing machine, that's because you've got air in there, and you need to find a way to purge that air. Sometimes, if you will start it and stop it, that will cause it to bleed air. Yeah, Corona Ken says, okay, Jordan, if you have a air stone that is air bubbles are being sucked up into your intake, then that's what's going on. You're just sucking air up in there, and it's just making it sound like a washing machine because it has air. If you turn it off, a lot of times the air will bleed back out on its own as the water runs back in there. But I definitely move that air stone someplace where it's not being drawn into the intake. Dank Tanks has an urge to buy new fish. Well, Dank, you're an old hand at fish keeping, and I've got something for you, Dank Tank. And I'm not sure if you were in the stream on Michael's Fish Room the other day, but look up this. Go there and see what you think, Dank. That's Daniel Anderson's new site. He is a fish breeder extraordinaire, and he is trying basically to not compete with, but offer an alternative to aquabid that is more breeder oriented, so that fish breeders and people that are in the process of importing a lot of fish anyway can use a new site that has video, that has picture capability on the bid itself, and it's just getting off the ground, so I'm not sure what much is there right now, but it sounds like it could be a really interesting place to look for breeders that that are looking to sell some of their stock. You know, a lot of people run their own websites and put stuff on Aquabid, but a lot of breeders that would normally, yes, it is an auction site, and it's like Aquabids. You know, I'm pretty sure that there's a buy it now price on everything. Hey KZ, welcome to the stream. Right now we're talking about finbids.com, and it's spelled FINBIDZ and .com, and I think that you will find it as an interesting new, not competition to Aquabid, but a slightly updated tech-wise, easier Aquabid, Dank Tank says. So Dank, maybe that will satiate your desire to buy new fish. You've got a bunch that you can look at there. I know the feeling. Sometimes I have to stay away from places like Aquabid and Tangled Up with Cichlids. Jeff Rapps is an incredible importer. Yeah, Lumpy Dog, if you want to learn more about the site, Michael from what is it, Michael's Fish Tanks? No, it's not Michael's Fish Tanks. Michael's Fish Room. Can't believe I can't remember his website right now. Maybe Susan can post it. But he has Daniel on, and that was basically the kickoff for the site, and it was last week. So it's only been up really for a week. And I can't imagine that it will do anything but just get better as it goes along. So I would highly recommend that you go to Michael's site and check out the video. It was a live stream, a new website for fish lovers. Okay, Corona Ken says, has anyone tried New Life Spectrum Grow? My fish won't eat it, even after fasting for a day. They love Sarah Veggie granules, the same diameter. Michael's Fish Room, yeah. I've had mixed results with New Life Spectrum. I wonder sometimes if I get when I buy some New Life Spectrum, if I'm not getting some that's out of date and been sitting on the shelves too long. I've had really good luck with, I think they make bottom scratchers, and yeah, there you go. One person's fish don't like something, and another person's fish do. Hey JW, welcome to the stream. Well, my experience with Endlers, Laura, is they will eat anything in the tank that isn't nailed down. So I'm not sure they're the best the best indicator of a quality of food. Those endlers that I've got from Lucas, they're gorgeous. They're some of the most beautiful endlers I've ever seen. But man, they will eat everything. They're terrorizing the shrimp. If the shrimp find something and start trying to eat it, and it's in this tank that's in my background, the shrimp will find something and the endlers will see them trying to eat it, and they'll run and take it away from the shrimp, whatever it is that the shrimp are trying to eat. It was probably a bad choice to stick endlers and shrimp in a small tank. At some point, I may try to move the endlers out, just to give those shrimp I think that's a Java fern. It's just kind of a small Java fern. Most of these plants came from Jim's tanks. I drove up there before Jim moved to Washington to be around Corey and his boss and his work. He had to get rid of all of his fish because he couldn't possibly take them all with him. So he was selling tanks and fish. And so I went up there and got 3 of his tanks and a bunch of fish. And you can see that in other videos. Lumpy Dog asks, any use for dried out guppy grass? It dries out so nicely. I cut handfuls out every week. Lumpy Dog, you could probably take guppy grass and grind it up and make a gel food out of it, or make pellets out of it to feed back to your fish or to feed to snails. Mark Shrimp Tanks has a video on doing that. I think he used duckweed, which is probably a little better. It probably has a better content than guppy grass does, but I don't see any reason why guppy grass couldn't be used. JW is getting into cherry shrimp, or at least he's bought 4 new cherry shrimp and 1 ember tetra. 1 ember tetra is going to be kind of sad by itself. Yeah, Rob offers you the opportunity to sell guppy grass. Welcome to the stream, McMurray Farms. Yeah, Ruru says he's going to try feeding his fish and shrimp some bananas. My wife started worrying about her autos in her 75. No longer, they've cleaned the tank and plants of most of the diatomaceous algae, and she's worried about them eating, so she tried zucchini. I have never had any luck ever getting an auto to eat zucchini, any kind of leafy green or cucumber or anything. But there was one auto in the tank that did land on a piece of zucchini and stayed there for a little while, but we can't tell how much it ate. And both pieces she put in finally ended up going bad. Hikari mini wafers. Yeah, that would be good, Susan. The only problem is that tank is full of large, voracious rainbows, and I'm afraid even a mini wafer wouldn't hit the bottom of the tank if you put it in there. Yeah, Laura, that's exactly right. My rule of thumb is 6 of any kind of tetra. Anything that schools or shoals, you're going to get a lot better behavior patterns out of them, a lot closer to nature, as close to nature as is possible in one of our glass tanks. You know, it's not a natural environment, but if you've got 6 or 10 of a tetra in a tank, you will see shoaling behavior out of them. And 6 is the bare minimum, I think. Ruru says his auto eats Hikari sinking wafers, algae wafers, zucchini, blanched green beans, and blanched spinach. Well, except for the wafers, we have tried all that. I have tried all that, and I've never had an auto eat any of it. So I guess it just, yeah, you can feed the auto after the lights go out. It doesn't matter. You can, in pitch darkness, those rainbows will voraciously tear apart anything. That's probably, it was probably a bad choice to put them in that 75, but I didn't have anywhere else for them to go. It was the only tank that was open really for them to go, and I'm not going to go out and buy another 100-gallon tank just because those rainbows are troublesome in that tank. They really act like a cichlid variant to me. They're voracious as cichlers. Rob Hicks is saying he likes the odd number 5, 7, 9, or 11 as tetras. Susan, thanks for stopping by. I hope you start feeling better, girl. Well, I'm just trying to, when I was giving 6 as a number, I'm just trying to talk about the shoaling and schooling behaviors that fish will exhibit, tetras specifically, will exhibit when they are in a group of their own that's large enough for them to, you know, scurry about the tank. If you've got 5 in a tank, one of them is probably going to be kind of a loner and hang out by himself, and that just gives you 4 in the shoal. Laura's asking me about Laura's asking me about the photographer. He came one time. He just lives 2 houses down from me, and he came one time and showed me enough stuff. And I was talking to him about paying him, and he said that he'd really rather not have me pay him, that he just came once as a friend, you know. So I've seen him outside when I've been outside, and he's been coming and going, but he's pretty busy, so I haven't really seen him have a lot of spare time to come back again. Rob Hicks is asking me how the rainbow fry are doing, and my wife took a bunch. She did not like that all the moss in the tank was being drug around by the rainbows. They would grab it and pull it all over the tank and separate it, and it was getting scattered out. So she took that moss and she wadded it up with some little stem plants and put a rubber band around it to keep the rainbows from tearing it apart. And I guess she didn't care for how it looked like that in her tank when she was replanting it, so she dropped it in the quarantine tank. And I said, honey, why do you have all this moss all tied up in a knot? It's not going to be able to really grow properly like that. You need to we need to let it loose, take it out of this rubber band. And so I did. I took the rubber band off of it, I scattered it all out, and it went in the quarantine tank where those rainbow fry are. Well, this morning, after one of the power outages, I went and checked on those rainbow fry, and I noticed that there are about 6 to 8 more super tiny babies in that tank. They're hovering right at the surface of the water. They're almost too small to eat the powder that Repashy comes in. I'm going to try microworms later today. The rainbows that we did have, I had counted 10 or more at one point, or at least I thought I had counted 10 or more. And the last couple of times I've tried to count them, I've only seen about 6 or 7. So it appears like, unless they're just hiding down in the bottom of the tank, and I haven't spotted them, it appears like we may have lost a few. Thinking about that, I realized that I hadn't done a water change on that tank. So I went ahead and did a water change on it, and I only did about 10% because my personal experience is fry don't do well with large water changes. So I only did like 10%. But I used remineralized RO water because I've noticed that here lately that I'm getting like up to 20 nitrates out of my tap water. And that's something that I advise you to do a lot, is to check your water parameters coming out of your tap. If you just use tap water, or if you use a mix of tap water and RO or distilled or rainwater, I would advise you to, every couple of weeks at least, check what you're getting out of your tap. Fill a bucket or fill a cup and stick a test strip in it, and just keep an eye on what the nitrates in your tap water is doing. And my personal recommendation, yeah, Rob, you're right. But I noticed at least 4 new ones, and they are so small that it strikes me that they may well be threadfin rainbow fry. I don't even really know how I'm going to feed them, short of I started a green water jar to have some kind of infusora to feed them with, so maybe that. Corona Ken, thanks for stopping by, man. We're coming up on the top of the hour here soon anyway, so but yeah, I think we have up to about 20 fry in that tank now. So every time I pull, or my wife pulls moss out of the rainbow tank, we're getting eggs. Hey Debbie, welcome to the stream. We've basically been just chattering about all kinds of things today. We've been having rolling brownouts at our house today. I guess it's because so many people are running their air conditioners. Yeah, you're right, Rob. They will, but fry will also starve to death pretty easily if they don't find something to their liking. And they don't always feed like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't always make them drink. And that's kind of the way fry are sometimes. They kind of want their parents to lead them around to what it is they're supposed to eat. But they all seem to be staying up in the water column, and they seem to be they like the micro worms. The larger ones did, at least, and the larger ones really like the baby brine shrimp, and the little ones, the new little ones, were trying to eat some of that Repashy powder. I'm not sure if they are actually big enough to eat Repashy powder. But you're right, Rob. If they are so small that they can't eat Repashy powder, which is basically microscopic as it is, then there's probably enough infusora in that tank. There's brown algae up all 3 sides or 4 sides of that tank, although it is starting to slowly turn into green algae. But yes, there's probably enough infusora for them to survive on. Yes, Laura, streams always go so fast because you're having fun. Yeah, I'm feeding. My wife went and got frozen baby brine, and the bigger ones, the earlier batch seems to love that. They chase those all over the tank. But these are so small that they're small even from my experience of most fry. Most fry, after their egg yolk goes away, are like an 1/8 of an inch high and maybe a quarter of an inch long, or a little less than a quarter inch long. These suckers look like you took a razor blade and cut the end off of a toothpick and stuck it in there. They are just tiny slivers. So this new batch may well be more goiter rivers or some hybrid, and they may well be thread fins too. The thread fins have been just breeding like crazy, so it's possible that they're those as well. Wayne, welcome to the stream, and you're most welcome for the information. How are the autos doing on your problem? Yeah, 6-hour streams are a little bit long. Rob did an 8-hour one here not too long ago, and Corey has done several of them, but they are just so long-winded. I can't really stay. My attention won't really. Oh, I'm glad, Wayne. I'm glad they're helping your tank out, and I would strongly recommend that to keep those autos happy, that you should get some in here would recommend 1 more at least, and I would recommend 2 more, so that they have a social hierarchy to work with. When I went out and bought them for my wife's 75, I bought 12, just because I knew my personal experience with autos is 2 things are going to happen. 1, a few of them are going to die just from being transferred to tank. And 2, when they clean the tank completely up, if they won't eat what you're feeding them, trying to feed them, like algae wafers or something along that line, if they won't eat that, a lot of them are going to starve to death, just simply because there is not enough stuff for them to eat. So autos can be a very difficult thing to keep alive in your tank long term. I know Rachel has a video where she's got like 200 of them in a tank, or 100 of them, or some crazy number of them. And I've seen it posited before, the idea that not only are they better when there's 6 or 10 or 20, but they're even more happy and more normal in their behaviors when there's like 100 or 200 of them, because in the wild they tend to shoal in large clouds and move around in their environment in a cloud. So yeah, autos are great cleaners though. They will scour a tank. You'll be amazed how much they can hold. Alright guys, we're coming up on 5 minutes to the hour. If you have some questions, you might get them in. As always, I've enjoyed your company, And yes, the hour does seem to go by pretty quickly. But my personal take on it is that if I am running like an hour and 20 minutes on a live stream with as few people as I've got in my live streams, I notice that the number of people watching tends to steadily tail off after about an hour. People have other things to do. This is a Saturday, so they've got stuff going on, and I understand that. But I'm always happy to have people in my live stream and to try to disseminate as much helpful information as I am capable of disseminating. I'm guilty sometimes of using anecdotal evidence, stuff that has worked for me, to give out as plausible information. As IFG says in all his streams, the person that makes the decision about what goes on in your tank needs to be you. It is worth listening to other people's experience and their anecdotal evidence in their experience. But it is always most important that you not take what I say or what IFG says or what Rob Hicks says or what anybody on the internet says without doing your own research into that subject. Now, granted, there are people out there on YouTube that are extreme experts. If Gapote Mel tells you something, you can pretty well take it to the bank and cash it, because it's probably if Corey tells you something, you can pretty well figure that he has experienced it over and over and over and over again, and that is his takeaway on it. If Ted Judy tells you something, if Heiko Blair tells you something, those are people you can pretty much take to the bank with their information. But for the rest of us, who are basically just fish keepers that have a lot of experience, or fish keepers that have a little experience, you need to listen to what they say closely and then take it and do your own research on it before you take their word for it. You know, if somebody tells you that plant tabs are the greatest thing in the world, and that if 2 of them help your plants, 50 of them would help your plants more, i.e. more is better, you need to recognize that you're going to have a huge ammonia spike when you put those 50 plant tabs all in your substrate. So yes, there is a great deal of great information on places like YouTube and Facebook and the internet, but always take it with a grain of salt. Always recognize that this may be something that worked for them in their specific setup, but it may not work for you in your specific setup. Yeah, Rob, you're right. We did research because there was no other way, unless you were in a fish club or unless you had a large number of subscriptions of magazines that were coming in, or unless you had an expert at your local aquarium that you could pester day and night. You're right. We had to read books. That was where we got our information. And there weren't that many books out there. There were enough. There were quite a few. But yes. And I would always recommend that a portion of the money that you set aside for what you want to spend on your hobby, your fish keeping hobby, I would always recommend that a portion of that goes towards reference books. Because as quick and as immediate gratification as looking things up on the internet is, I would tell you that having a book to go back to time and time again, where nothing changes, where it is stated in exactly the same way, and believe me, that the authors of most of the well-written books that you can go out and buy as reference books state things in an order for a reason. They state what they state for a reason, and you will find that rereading an old fish book over and over and over again, every time you read it, you will glean new information out of the same book that you've read 30 times. Something that you've experienced lately will click in your head and you'll say, oh, aha, of course. Now I understand why that's said the way it is. Well, Laura, it's there for when you get ready to peruse it. Okay, guys, we're past an hour and I'm going to call it a stream. I'm glad that the power didn't go out and knock us out of this live stream. But I hope you guys all have a good Saturday or Sunday, as the case may be for you, depending on your location. And good luck with your fish, man.